Except for when they're showing clips from the programmes. Actually, this awfully nice TV man did ours for us.
She's an evil woman, isn't she?
Who? Who is?
Vixen.
Vixen, yes, she is.
Ugh, I'm not sure I'm safe here today.
Well, my piranha fish. You've never yet tasted a television presenter.
Oh, I don't think they want to, really. Fenella, welcome to the Broom Cupboard.
Hello,
It's
darling.
a wonderful series, isn't it?
It's great.
Now, I mean, you do television and stage. Was it a breath of fresh air doing a children's drama?
Oh, gosh, yes. I think it's wonderful. It's so funny.
I mean, what appealed to you about the programme when you first sort of saw the script?
Well, it's a very good script. It's a very intelligent script, and it isn't sort of like a babyish script.
Yeah.
I thought it was... Yeah, I think it's terrific.
Now, I mean, I do have to ask these questions. What happens? I mean, there's one more programme to go. What happens?
My dear Andy, do you suppose I have reached my position as an international spy? You think you can just ask me what happens and I'm going to tell you?
Well,
I can keep a secret a bit.
Oh, well,
Just a teeny
there's
bit.
never any harm in asking, is there really?
No harm in asking, you're dead right.
Exactly, you know. Now, I know that you used to be in carry-on films. I must ask you, were they good fun to make?
Yes, they were.
You know, you never have
Yeah.
anything quite like the formula in those, would you?
I beg your pardon?
Quite like the formula that you're after. Nothing like that in carry-on films.
No. Well, I don't know. I think there would be something like that in Carry On.
Something quite-
I think this is very similar to Carry On.
Now, we've got one more episode to go. You're not going to tell me anything that happens. Did you enjoy making it?
Very much.
What was the
Yeah.
best thing for you?
The best thing really was, well, I suppose being with everybody. Everybody's so lovely in it. And working with Jeremy and larking about. Really.
Ah, Jeremy, the producer next door. Well, we should all sit here. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
After a while, Kenneth began to notice particular lines of mine which had been very good and had been retained, not chucked out in the general sort of ad-lib atmosphere. And if they were getting very good laughs, suddenly the next night I would find that either I didn't get the cue for them, or he spoke the lines himself. He had a very low boredom threshold. Didn't like the thing being 8 times a week. Well, all shows are. And he didn't like it running more than about a month or 6 weeks, which is all the time you need, really, for all your finest friends to come and see you. And after that, really, he was fed up and didn't want to do it anymore.
One day, he just rushed me into another room and he said, now look, you and I have got to remember that we're the ones who are going to go up there and take it. And, you know, we've got to protect ourselves. He said, what we have to do with this piffle is ad-lib it and be prepared to improvise round it.
As Fenella Fielding discovered when she put an end to one of Kenneth's tirades with a show-stopping ad-lib of her own.
The show in the evening went well, till Madam decided to ad-lib one line just before the tag in Spies. Of course, it threw me completely. This is the last straw. I've reported it to the office, and from now on I just behave with politeness. For the rest, she's had it.
Do you get on well together on stage, or do you find, Fenella, for example, that Kenneth makes things up as he goes along?
No.
Well, he's got a very inventive mind.
Yes, but I'm always cooperative. Very professional.
Dear.
Yeah, do you mind?
That line you put in.
No,
The lines that you put in, if it comes to that, really.
How come you two? No, this was...
But Kenneth wasn't just unpredictable on stage, as the company understudy of 1 over the 8 was to discover.
I saw it on its last night. I knew that it was meant to be a comedy, and it wasn't making anybody laugh. And Kenneth was, I don't know, I suppose he was just desperate. He was he was doing a send-up of something or other, but he was going into many different characters while he was supposedly playing this detective.
Out.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful because they are so brilliant. And, you know, it's the quickness of the mind. Thank you, darling. Mwah. Ooh. Yes. Probably tomorrow.
Doing the same scene.
I'm playing Mrs. Foxflower, who's a kind of deranged creature who's only the only permanent resident of this truly terrible place. I mean, it's not a role that's got any huge bearing on the plot. I just sort of wander about. I'm a sort of shadow person who... I think I'm living in the Ritz, or something of the sort. Well, I think she must have a bit of money. And I think she doesn't quite... I think she's a little detached. I think she doesn't quite take in what's going on because these two raving lunatics who run the place, you know, the Divine Rick and the Divine Adrian, just brutalize her. They knock her about and they pillage her mouth for gold fillings. Oh, and I also get terribly drunk. Yes, just a little bit drunk. It was being punched on the jaw. And, I mean, sort of naturally, no fist actually connected with any jaw of mine. But, you know, one had to sort of act it and so forth. Oh! This is a first. Yes, I've never been shoved around so much before. No, I've never even been slapped in the face. But this was a punch, you know, like a chap does to another chap. I mean, she's probably been there longer than they have. They probably took over this awful guest house and she was probably the only person left, you know. And so instead of moving her into an old age home, they said, let her stay on, you know, and we'll get what we can out of her. We've all eaten this fish, and as a consequence, we're slightly, well, rather ill. Well, I know that when I was little, I used to have aunties who told me that it was never a good idea to eat fish out.
How ill?
Well, I would say upchuckingly ill, vomitoriously ill, and certainly green-skinned ill. And I thought, well, what's the matter with me? You know, why did I think I couldn't stand it? It's really because I'd been desensitized by watching a lot of episodes of Casualty. Well, yeah. Well, there is. But then, of course, if you watch several takes, you know, it seems like much better.
Would you say this was a review in the old tradition or a new type of review?
I'd say it was a compromise, wouldn't you, Fenella?
Definitely, yes.
When he wanted to work with you, he was more than the easiest person to work with. It was joy. If he didn't happen to feel like it, it was the most hateful thing that I can possibly think of. It was like trying to work with, I don't know, a tank. You know, a tank that was coming towards you.
I'm always cooperative, very professional.
Dear
Yeah, do you mind?
I don't mind you putting
No,
The lines that you put in, if it comes to that, really.
He said, what we've got to do is to ad-lib, improvise, and add on to this rubbish that we have here, and make it good. We were like one voice coming out of two people. You know those people in life who live together so long that they always overlap each other when they talk? One starts and somebody else carries on, but the other one hasn't stopped. And so we were constantly overlapping each other and repeating each other's phrases. And it was terribly funny.
You don't mean that.
I do. You're quite
She's
lovely.
just saying it.
By the way, we're engaged.
What?
The most dreadful thing that ever happened between us, really, was ages later, I saw him in the street, and I was having a party, and I said, you must come. And he did come. But it was such a riotous, crowded party that we never heard the bell. And he did come, but he didn't get in. And that was terrible. And I don't think he ever forgave me for that.
But Eric kind of subsumed that and made it into something reminiscent of Tony Hancock, but a bit different, a bit more personal. The funny thing is, you can be much more round the corner with jokes with children. You can say something that's very tongue-in-cheek or very camp to a child, and it will get the joke. A listening adult may not. I don't know why. I think adults are more anxious. I remember that it was very frightening and that I had to sort of roar a bit. All the things children like best, they watch from behind the sofa, don't they? I know that Doctor Who, practically everybody I know watched it from behind the sofa. So, well, I'm one of that band then that terrifies children. A friend of mine told me that every time the cat cried, his dog used to howl. Now, I think that is Keltishers, don't you? I think that really means a lot, because dogs, say what you like about them, but they're terribly sincere. Will they be as good as Eric? Eric did it all. Well, we'll see, we'll see. They sound lovely. Magic.
Keep watching the 100 Greatest Scary Moments and carry on screaming. Carry On Screaming was really kind of the ultimate in send-ups of all sorts of horror movies.
What time is it?
Just past December.
Sitting there on the sofa, clouds of smoke emitted from behind and around. Such a corny gag. We all knew that there was no point in saying, as Harry H. Corbett astonishingly did at one point, I can't say this line, it's much too vulgar. And of course he wasn't allowed not to say it. And I thought, didn't he read it first? You know, it was so ridiculous. There is a fine line between horror and comedy, because if you just go that tiny bit too far, it's terribly funny.
Flying tonight!
I think the Doctor films became more risque as the 60s went on.
I met Eric Yonks before. Eric and I were both in the same play, which was Let's Get a Divorce. He wasn't very happy in it because he didn't like his part. But suddenly he was asked to do the English version of Magic Roundabout, and he became totally absorbed in it, and he was very excited about it. It made all the difference to his life. It was quite funny. He had a bit of trouble with the French people because of the dog being called Dougal, and they thought it was sort of sending up General de Gaulle. He talked in a way that children could understand but didn't feel patronised by. And that's why grown-ups loved it, because they remembered being little themselves. I had no idea that nobody else was going to be in it. I just thought, oh, well, I'm playing the Queen. And she was a fairly wicked queen, or sort of fairly bossy anyway. For years and years and years, ever since it happened, people I've worked with, whether they were actors or musicians or dancers, they all knew about Dougal and the Blue Cat. And they all had children who were mad about it and so forth. So, you know, they didn't say, oh, you're the only one in it who's not Eric. And I didn't know until fairly recently, when I found an old LP in that retro shop in Notting Hill. I loved doing it. I loved being in it. I was very flattered that Eric asked me to do it. Wonderfully, quietly witty, which is always lovely, isn't it? Blue is beautiful. Blue is best. I'm blue. I'm beautiful. I'm best. Blue is beautiful. Blue is best. I'm blue. I'm beautiful. I'm best.
Because I'd had quite a lot of experience with comedians, I knew that they got very uncomfortable if they couldn't make you laugh.
And if I can't get those three things? Well, I shall be completely deaf in my right leg for the rest of my life.
Completely deaf in your right leg?
Do you speak up, please?
So I thought, what I will do is fake being unable to stop myself laughing. So I did that, and the relaxation in his eyes was absolutely amazing. My character was called Valeria, and I was sister to Dr. Watts, who was played by Kenneth Williams. Harry H. Corbett was in the film because Sid James was simply not available. That was that. So they looked around for somebody highly saleable and talented and so forth, and they chose Harry H. Corbett. People often mention frying tonight. I think they liked it because it was such a well-known phrase. And then to see it applied to Kenneth Williams in that condition, I think it was just too much.
Frying tonight!
And emotional returns to where the magic happened.
This film is always with me because there are always people who are seeing it for the first time. It's become a very big part of my life because of that.
But the exterior of the byee rest home was found in neighbouring Fulmer Grange. Today, the building is still in use as a language school.
That, I remember much taller. I can't believe it. I mean, it looks life-size. Love it. I have very fond memories of Carry On Screaming because all actors like working with other actors that they admire. And there were so many good actors in this particular film that wherever you turned, you saw someone you admired. It was, I think, as near perfect as you can get.
What time is it?
Just past December.
I told you not to call me till the beginning of March.
Seeing pictures of oneself in costume, it always depends on how good you look. And on this one, I look as if I've had rather a good lunch quite often. Everyone wants to know about the dress. I couldn't really sit down in it. In fact, the only time I did sit down was in my scene with Harry H.
Do you smoke?
Not on duty, miss.
Well, do you mind if I smoke?
No, of course not, miss.
Thank you so much.
I did have a leaning board, which is rather remarkable, isn't it? It's very Hollywood. Slanting board, you lean on it between shots so that you don't wear yourself out, which is a very good idea.
Frying tonight!
This film is always with me because there are always people who are seeing it for the first time, and it's become a very big part of my life because of that. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Carry On Screaming was a roaring success, and soon plans were afoot to make a big noise across the Atlantic.
I admired them like mad because they were so brilliant.